welcome back. This is my channel. So today I'm going over my reading wrap up for this week, the books that I read this week, the ones that I finished, the one that I'm currently listening to, and what I hope to pick up by the end of the week. So first off, we have the Chocolate Cake Mix Doctors by Anne Bryan. And from this book, I made chocolate cake, which has nothing to do with the holiday this week at all, because you never need an excuse to make chocolate cake. Just make it. Alright, so the main book that I finished this week was The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first book in the Stormlight Archives, and when I started it, it was just kind of okay. Got to be about 100 pages in, and I was like, I was expecting it to be more exciting and more interesting. Because usually when you read a book, when you get to about 100 pages, you're pretty invested in it. And I just wasn't as invested as I thought it would be. And then I realized this book's 1,200 pages long, and that's probably why. And as I kept reading, it just kept getting better and better and better and better. By the end, I couldn't put it down. There's multiple perspectives in here. We follow Kaladin, who is a former soldier who, I guess, killed the wrong person, and because of that became a slave. And he has his group of slaves that he's in charge of, and they are in charge of running bridges. And then we have one of the princes and his children and all of that, and they are, I guess, partly in charge of this war against this other race of beings. So far, I'm really enjoying the series. I'm looking forward to continuing, and I really liked it, and I hope that it lives up to Brandon Sanderson's name as far as Mistborn and all of his other series that he's done that I've enjoyed. The next book that I finished was Exile by Shannon McGuire. This is the second book in The Keeper of the Lost Cities. This is a middle grade book about a girl who was raised by humans. She can read people's minds, and she thinks she's a freak, and turns out she's an elf. And so she's not as much a freak as she thought she was. But even in the elfish realm, she's some genetically mutated elf who has a lot of special abilities, and usually elves just have one and maybe two if they're lucky. And she was created by a secret organization in the Elfin Society, which isn't supposed to exist, but they do. And so they keep trying to control her and get her to do things, and she's not really sure if she can trust them or not. But, you know, it has all sorts of magical creatures and beings in it, and it was kind of fun read. Me and my kids will certainly be picking up the next book at some point in the future. The next book that I finished was Swan Song by Robert McCammon. This was a post-apocalyptic book after a nuclear war. I did enjoy it. I can't say that there was anything overly wrong with it. It just kept reminding me of The Stand by Stephen King, and I just felt like it was kind of a knockoff, and because of that, I probably would have scored it higher if I had felt like there was more, if they hadn't stolen so much from the other author. But other than that, it wasn't horrible, it wasn't great, and like I said, I probably would have liked it better maybe if I had read it before The Stand. The next book I finished this week was The Princess Bride by William Goldman. Well, all I can say about this book is you should watch the movie and just skip the book, because the movie, in this case, which I know is rare, but it's better than the book. Watch the movie. The characters in the book they're horrible, and they're stupid. I don't know how else to say it. They're not good characters. Wesley's really mean. In the movie he was a little mad at her. I kind of get it. She did decide to go marry someone else, but he wasn't overly mean to her. And in the book he treats her like she's stupid, and she is stupid. But still, it was their relationship was horrible. None of the characters were better in the book than they were in the movie. You don't really get any more insight into any of them. Yeah, just skip this book. Just watch the movie, and you will not miss a thing. Okay, the last book that I finished this week was Blue Lily, Lily Blue by Maggie Stiefvater. This is the third book in the Raven Cycle series. This book follows Blue and the Raven Boys as they are trying to find the tomb, I guess, of a Welsh king that's buried in Virginia. Makes perfect sense, because where else would a Welsh king be buried? Because apparently at some point in history, the Welsh kings brought all their dead people over here to be buried in Virginia. I actually really like this. This series keeps getting better as it goes along. The characters and the choices that they make, they're kind of corny because they're obviously young kids trying to find this tomb, because supposedly if they find this dead king, he will grant them a favor. And of course, there's something that's not supposed to happen, and it warns us all throughout the book, like, don't do this, don't do this. And in good storytelling fashion, it happens. Because why else would you put it in there if you weren't going to do it? Really like this. Good job. And I'll be reading the last book probably sometime in a couple of months. So those were the 5 books I finished this week overall. I enjoyed them. I had a good time reading so far this month. So these are the books I'm currently reading. First one is The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. This is the first book in the Farseer trilogy. So far I'm having a good time with it. I'm about 110 pages into it. This follows Fitz, who is the bastard of the king-to-be, and when he's discovered, it causes a lot of turmoil and upheaval in the country, and the king is trying to, I guess, get Fitz on his side so that he will never betray him. And it kind of just feels like Fitz is just thrown into all these situations. He doesn't really have a choice in what he's being forced to do, and he just tries to make the best of it. I'm enjoying it. I should finish it this week. The next book that I'm into is The Kings of Ash by Richard Nell. This is the second book in the Ash and Sand trilogy. This is a grimdark fantasy. We're following Ruka, who is our bad guy, and it's kind of going through his story and how he got to be to who he is, and it completely makes sense why he turned out the way he did. And Kel is our protagonist, who, he's a prince. He got sent away, so he avoided being destroyed when his kingdom was destroyed, and now we're just going to see what he does next. Okay, the third book that I'm finishing up is Hyperion by Dan Simmons. This is a science fiction book about a group of travelers who are going to this planet called Hyperion. There's aliens on there. They all have different reasons for going, and they're hoping that this last pilgrimage, and there's war going on throughout the galaxy and everything, but they're hoping this last pilgrimage will give them the things that they need and they want to, I guess, fulfill their lives. So far I'm enjoying it. It's got 7 different characters that we're following and their stories and how they got to be on this pilgrimage going to Hyperion. So after I finish with those books, here's the books that I plan to read next. The first one is We Need to Talk About Kevin by Lionel Shriver. This is a contemporary book about a boy. I'm not sure if he's involved in a school shooting or what, but somehow he's involved with killing some people at his school, and it's his mother's story, I think, after the fact. I know there's a movie out. Haven't seen the movie, but I'm hoping to enjoy the book. The next book I'll pick up after Kings of Ash is called For We Are Many by Dennis Taylor. And this is the second book in the Bobverse science fiction series, and I'm interested to see what happens next. This is about a guy who gets himself cryogenically frozen, comes back, they bring him back several years later as an AI, and now he's cloned himself and spread his spaceships throughout the galaxy looking for life and a way to save the Earth and everyone that's left on the Earth. After Hyperion, I'll pick up Wayward, which is the second book in the Wayward Pines series by Blake Crouch. This is kind of a horror, dystopian, kind of hybrid book. There's monsters, there's people who are trapped in this town, and there's a lot more going on than you would think at first. Okay, so those are all the books that I'm currently reading, what I plan to pick up next, and what I finished this week. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. And remember, have cake with books.